Hello there. My name is Ryan. We are inside the Grow Fitness, and this is the show that I like to call Between the Weights. Simon Sinek, he is a popular speaker. He's written a bunch of books. He's usually speaking to audiences that are business people, to business organizations to help them, right? And he came up with this idea, or this concept of the infinite game and the finite game. And so when he's explaining it, he uses the example of Apple and Microsoft, and how Apple plays an infinite game, meaning they're not necessarily worried about who's winning right now. They're not worried about being better than anybody else. Their focus is not about being better than someone else. It's about providing the best thing for their clients possible. Whereas Microsoft was playing a finite game, particularly when those two companies were battling for supremacy, right? And Microsoft's goal was to beat Apple. And they tried to put things out in order to beat Apple. And it didn't work. It didn't play out, right? So like the Zune was a perfectly fine thing, but whatever. Simon says it a whole lot better than I do. But that game, that same idea plays out in each one of us in daily life, okay? Playing a finite game is a game where there's winners and losers, where there's best and worst, and there is an end point. Okay, there's a start and a finish to a finite game. Think any sort of sport game. There's a start, there's usually a halftime, and then there's a finish. And there's two teams, and one team will have more points than the other and be deemed the winner. That plays out in life all the time, right? Whether or not you have more money than your sister, or you're skinnier than your coworker, or whatever the thing is, right? And comparing yourself to other people, to use other people as a barometer of how good you are. If you are better than them, if you are higher up on the rankings, then you are winning and you're valuable and you should be happy. And if you are lower in the rankings at any particular point, then you're a loser and you are of no value and you should be miserable. Versus playing an infinite game. An infinite game does not have an ending. Goes on forever. Infinity, right? It's the idea we're trying to get, is there is no timeline. And whether or not you are ahead of someone or behind someone on some metric doesn't matter, because you could be better than them tomorrow, and then the next day be worse than them again. And there's this constant jockeying. But it's not about where you stand in relation to other people. An infinite game, there are no winners and losers. There's no first and second place. There is no better than or best than someone else. It is a game that's played within yourself, the goal being forward momentum. The goal being constantly improving on yourself so that you feel good, so that you're happy, so that you're accomplishing different tasks. Okay? The reason we care about the difference between playing, also, let me throw this in right now, infinite versus finite means you would have a mindset where there is a set amount of resources. In a finite game, if I'm winning, that means you're losing. If you're winning, it means I'm losing. If you're eating 8 pieces of the pizza, that means I only get to have 2. In a finite game, there is a limited number of resources. In an infinite game, how much pizza you're eating does not affect how much pizza I get to eat. If you have the love and admiration of a person, doesn't mean that there is less love or admiration that you can have for a second person. Me loving you or loving someone over here doesn't take away from the love or the energy that I have for you. That's what an infinite game is. A finite game means, well, if I like this person, I've only got a certain set of likes, credits to give, and so if this person is getting a bunch of them, then you are getting less. If we're considering the finite and the infinite game when it comes to relationships, right? With your spouse or kids. A finite game with your kids means you have favorites, and if you love child A a certain amount, that means you only have a certain amount left to give to child B, C, D, and E. A, B, C, D, E. Yeah. In my case, right? But that's not how it is. Love for your children should be an infinite game. I can love A and still have love left over for B and still have the same amount of love left over for C and D and E. Also, I can love my spouse and none of the love for any of the individuals takes away from the love available to the other individuals. That's how an infinite game is different than a finite game. Leaderboards in a gym. We don't have leaderboards in my gym because it turns the community to a finite game. Yes, I want you to improve. We have a goal wall. We have a level method where we can measure where you're at objectively. But we don't have a list with everyone's name in order of awesomeness. And that is the difference between an infinite game and a finite game. In a finite game, when you are winning, you're happy. When you're losing, you're sad. And there will always be someone that you will be losing to. Always. In one way or another, in a finite game, you will always find a way to be losing. There is no long-term happiness. There is no long-term satisfaction. There is no long-term satisfaction. There is no long-term happiness in a finite game. There isn't. Even if you're winning at the end. As soon as the game is... Life doesn't stop at the end of a game. unless we're considering life as a game. But now I'm digressing. In an infinite game, in an infinite mindset, you have an unlimited capacity for happiness and satisfaction. And even when there's a setback, that does not spiral you into sadness or depression. Having an infinite mindset leads to ultimate happiness, is the gateway to satisfaction and happiness, is the mindset, is the starting point for you to truly be happy in what the success that you are going to attain. So, I know this video has become extremely long, but I need you to understand, in order for you to be happy, in order for ultimate satisfaction, for you to get true joy and fulfillment in your life, you would be better served by no longer participating in finite games. No longer competing with your sister on who's skinniest, or strongest, or fastest, or smartest, or richest, or poorest, or who's got the best kids, or whose kids went to the best schools, or whose kid is accomplishing the greatest things. I lost my train of thought. An infinite game will lead to your happiness. In an infinite game, there is no I'm better than her. It is I'm better than myself. I am progressing myself. I am leveling up myself. It's not about being a higher level than somebody else. I think that covers at least the ideas that I had in my head that I'm trying to communicate. This is not the end of this conversation. Any one of these little bits can be, there's rabbit holes that can be jumped down all over the place. Understanding what kind of game you are playing, what your ultimate goals are, and switching as much as you can away from finite games to infinite games is going to dramatically change how happy you are, how satisfied you will be, how much fulfillment you're going to feel like you obtain, and all the things. I care about you, and I want you to truly be happy. And I know that that is done by transitioning your world to an infinite game. Again, my name is Ryan. We are inside the Grow Fitness. This is what I like to call between the weights. I will see you next time. If you have any comments, you can hit. I would love to continue this conversation. Let me know if it helped or not, and if you're even still listening. See you next time.